to the Your Pennsylvania Ancestors podcast. This is Denise Allen, your host. In this episode, I interview Joshua Blay, Registrar and Collections Manager for the City of Philadelphia Archives. The City of Philadelphia has records for genealogists going all the way back to 1683. No, you're not going to find a birth record from 1683, but you will find deed records from then, and you'll find some naturalization records in the 1700s. And, well, you'll just be amazed at the amount of records that the City of Philadelphia has just waiting for you. They also have a special archive of photos that Joshua will tell you about, and you'll hear some things that they have in what they call their treasure collection. Have a question about how to research in the state of Pennsylvania? Go over to my website, www.paancestors.com, click Leave a Question, and I'd be glad to answer it on a future episode of the podcast. And now, here's Joshua from the City of Philadelphia Archive. Joshua Blay, welcome to the podcast. I'd love for you this morning to tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at the Philadelphia Archive. And I don't even know if I have it straight. Is it the Philadelphia City Archive, just the Philadelphia Archive?
Yes. Hello, Denise. Thank you very much for having me. Officially, it's the City of Philadelphia Department of Records and City Archives. City Archives is a subunit of the Department of Records under the City of Philadelphia.
Aha, I knew it. I knew I'd get that wrong because I just call it Philly Archives. I'm going to the Philly Archives.
We call it Philly Archives, we call it City Archives, but officially City Archives is part of the unit of the Department of Records in the City of Philadelphia.
Okay, so you guys do a lot. So Josh, tell us about yourself and what you do, what your title is, what you do on a day-to-day basis for the city.
Certainly. My official title is Registrar and Collections Manager. A lot of the staff here are cross-trained, but my main duties are helping patrons out at the front research room. We always have rotating shifts throughout the front. I also answer off-site research requests. We handle a lot of those through the course of the year. And then we're always working on projects in the back where they're processing new collections, inventorying collections. We just moved to a new location here in Spring Garden Street, so we're still sort of clearing up some of the dust, if you will, in terms of reconciliation of projects in the wake of the massive move from our former location over by 30th Street Station.
What is it like on a given day for your job in terms of requests? Are there a ton of people coming in? Or do you wish there was more people coming in?
It all depends really on the day, and I guess what people have had for breakfast and the weather and what have you. Monday mornings and Mondays generally tend to be quieter, and Friday afternoons and Fridays overall tend to be busier. But it really depends. We've averaged about 12, 15 people per day since we've opened. But even when the room seems a little light out front, obviously you could have a patron that is looking for a massive amount of information, or you could have a patron that's just looking for like one birth record, for example. And again, beyond the patrons that visit us on site here, we are answering a lot of emails. We're, again, working on those off-site research requests, and people will always, as you can imagine, often call in before they come in to do research just to see what we have and to see if they're pointing in the right direction.
And that's a great thing that they do in terms of calling first, just to make sure they're headed in the right direction. I know I've been in there and folks have walked in looking for, let's say, a birth certificate from 1940. And the folks at the front desk there will tell them, that's not us. You got to go to the state.
That's some of our most popular non-collection relevant questions in terms of they want to see their own birth certificate or a marriage certificate. As the name implies, City Archives, we just have some of the older material as far as that sort of information goes, but we certainly have newer departmental information from the city. But we've had questions from people asking us for Social Security information to all sorts of stuff, or if we're the city morgue. But generally, Oh yes, but people are very good about, generally very good about sending us an email or giving us a call for the new people that come to our location, just to make sure that what we have is of interest to them before they make the visit, or send in the research request if they're not able to come on site.
I have a fun fact about morgues and archives. So in Delaware County, the Delaware County Archive actually does share their building with the county morgue. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I was a little disconcerted when I visited, but you know, do I get free ghosts
Just
with
make sure
this
you go in
visit?
the right door.
Yeah, no, right. It is like there's a loading dock on the one side, and then for both the archives, you know, and the morgue business. So, uh,
Certainly, certainly.
can you cover for us? So we talked about birth records just briefly and death records. So birth records in Philadelphia, they were microfilmed by, I guess, the Utah Genealogical Society, which is now Family Search, and are up on familysearch.org. Um, People probably ask you this all the time. Are there additional birth records prior to 1906 that Philadelphia has that aren't already up online on Family Search?
I'm not quite sure all exactly of what is on Family Search or Ancestry, because that was a privately done project before my coming to the area, but I can say for sure that we do have original birth records from the city from 1860 to 1915. We
Okay.
also have supplemental records. As far as birth records go, there's some from the Alms House, and there's also some birth records we have here from the Philadelphia General Hospital. But in terms of overall city official records, in terms of private births, if you will, we do have the official birth records from 1860 to 1915. Birth records, as well as some other genealogical specific records that we would have, like our marriage records, which we have from 1860 to 1915, as well as death records, 1803 to 1915. Depending on how much you pay for like Ancestry or Family Search, sometimes you can get those online, sometimes you need to come in here. For example, we use Family Search a little bit on our own when we sort of get stuck, or to give us a sort of a shortcut to some records from time to time. And even, again, we have original records that you just cannot get. Even if you have a free account on Family Search, you can have a free account there without paying anything. You just need to create an account, but there's still records there you cannot get there on the site, or you might need to go to one of their research centers.
Right. I did notice that with the death certificates. So I guess you can look at the ledger books for the deaths, which were the returns of burial cards. It looks like the Philadelphia county clerk at the time was writing in as they got the burial cards back of who died, you know, in these ledger
Yeah,
books. Yeah. And
yeah.
then, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say some of our original records, like the birth, marriages, and deaths, and we have a lot more than those. But some of our original records for those three subjects, they're not like an individual certificate as you might think today. Some are very basic. Some of them are like a group of who was buried that week or who was born that week. But it is still considered the original official city document. And most of those, if not all of them, I believe, especially the births and the deaths, were part of the original health department records. So that's why the city archives wound up with those sort of materials.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So I have come across at some point, the city started out issuing actual certificates of death.
I
Um,
think that's about 1890, 1900, if I remember correctly.
okay, yeah, that must be because I have a couple I can pull up, as you were saying, at a family history center, pull up those original images, and I have that on my to-do list to do. So
Great.
you don't need to come to the Philadelphia City Archives to see those, although could somebody get the original paper to look at if they wanted?
Certainly, certainly. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have the original papers here. People are certainly welcome to look at them, and you can either make a copy for $1 a page, $2 minimum for regular copies, or we find a lot more of our patrons are taking photos with their phone, or sometimes they have an app on their phone that will let them scan that. And we even have some patrons from time to time that will bring in their own scanning equipment to scan original papers.
The nice part about a digital photo is you can zoom in and zoom out. It's full color, which is nice. And you can send it to a family member, which is fun
Certainly,
too.
certainly. Some of the younger generation prefers to do the photo thing, then mostly the older generation prefers copies. Then some people just transcribe information. It all depends on what they're looking for. Then some people, like for example, people looking for dual citizenship, they will need certified copies, which we can do as well for an additional cost.
I have not asked about that before. So you do certified copies of the birth and death records.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, some other records, depending on what they're looking for. Again, it's an additional price, and we just have to review that with a patient to see what the exact price would be.
Okay. So aside from the vital records, you have deeds on site,
Yes,
correct?
we have all the property ownership history for the city from 1683 to about the 1950s, 1960s. Some of those are, most of those are actually scanned and available on a website through the city. It's on a public terminal, so we don't work with that too much. Some of that information is available for free now because in an effort to fight deed fraud, they're opening up some of those records. Some of they might be watermarked or you can't print, but some of those records are being opened to the public to share that information a lot more freely. And as well, we also have microfilms, which people can look at here. And getting back to genealogical records for a second, we also have naturalization records, and we have those from 1793 to 1930. And women, actually, a lot of people don't realize this, women were not naturalized until September 1922. They were either naturalized, if they were young enough, they were naturalized through their father, or they were naturalized through their husband after marriage.
That tripped up me when I was doing research. I couldn't find it. A woman who she said she had naturalized, and I couldn't find her record. But occasionally there is a woman who does. So it's not, like most things with research, you can't ever say 100% something's one way. There's always these exceptions, but
there certainly is. There certainly is.
And the naturalization records, I thought your website did a great job, and I know it doesn't always have the most up-to-date information, but a great job explaining the various methods of naturalization depending on the time period in the city. So it is complicated because it could be done at the federal level, the county level, the city level, right? Is that
or even the state level, or even the
oh,
state
the state level. Yeah.
Yeah. Even for staff here, we have a few different places we will go to check for somebody based on the date and based on the court. But like you said, there are city, state, and national or federal levels. The city records we have, and then of course there are federal levels. Even before 1930, there was just a patron the other day looking for like the 4th District Court, but it was the United States of America, so I'm afraid that was a federal document. There are state court records, state Supreme Court records, of course, and those you have to go through the state archives in Harrisburg, and I believe you can do that through their website there, or obviously in person. But yeah, we have a few different locations, a few different sources here. There's been some secondary indexes that people have produced. There's also some index card indexes we will go through. But by and large, we will have the city naturalization information from those dates, 1793 to 1930.
It's good to mention to people, don't just go with the index when you do the research. You really got to pull that original naturalization record to check to make sure it's your person that you're looking at.
Yes, without a doubt, and without a doubt. And also, I would say, again, getting back to some of our more popular genealogical records, never trust the spelling. Some last names that are more simple are a lot more dependable than others, but other spelling variations, they're all over the place. And we've even seen different spelling on one record for a last name. Like, for example, when you get to the original birth return, they might have the last name of the child spelled differently from the last name of the parents. And it's one thing I've learned: never trust the spelling, and just see what's out there to see what's close and make a note of it. And also never hesitate for staff here to help you. Sometimes people feel a little sheepish about having them pull boxes or pull records, but that's what we're here for. We're very, very happy to help, and certainly people do hit some brick walls from time to time, but our greatest pleasure comes from somebody finding the record they're looking for, and sometimes it just takes a little time to dig, and we're certainly very happy to help people to do so.
That's great advice. Yeah, just ask, and rely on the staff. I can't emphasize enough to people to rely on the staff. You are in those records every single day, and you know without a doubt where to go next inside those records. And it just takes some time, to get back there and do the digging out of things. We as researchers can have in our head where we think it is or what we think we need based on our other research experience, maybe in another county or another state. But every place is truly organized differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is. It's, records over different time periods are organized differently. The folks that are in the archives know what that is and rely on them to dig it out.
Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly. Obviously, genealogical records and deed records, some of our more popular records, or most often used records, I should say, are a bit more cut and dry. But like when you get into general research, which we host a lot of people for that, when you get into general research, a lot of the stuff in the archives is filed by department. But as you can imagine, throughout the city's history, there's been a variety of initiatives and projects that have been cross-departmental. So, for example, if a researcher was wanting to research that cross-city tunnel connection when they linked Reading Terminal and Broad Street Station, that could be under the City Transit Record Group and also the Mayor Record Group and the City Planning Group and probably others. So as you get into more general research, you got to keep in mind or sort of keep your eyes open and not so many have like departmental blinders and think what other department that material could exist in, because it's most often not just going to be one department.
Oh, interesting. So if somebody's really diving in deep to their ancestor's life, to really rely on you. I had a ancestor who was a Philadelphia police officer, and you all pulled out the logbooks of from the late 1800s of, I think it was literally just like, it was literally a logbook of like which officers were in which district and sort of their status of service.
Yep, and we also have some employment cards. We also have other city employee information. So, and it doesn't, they all don't cover the same period of time. So it all depends on what people are looking for till we really get into it, till we really identify to see what we would have that would complement those genealogical records or stand on their own in terms of other city records.
Okay, so another records that I wanted to make sure we covered, a lot of genealogists used, is wills and probate records. So it's my understanding that those are housed in the archive, but to access them, it's a request in through City Hall at the Register of Wills office, actually.
They are housed on site, but that is not part of the records department or the archives department. They only share the same physical building as we do here on Spring Garden Street. But yes, unless we do see some will information time to time in deeds and maybe in some of our court information, but generally will and probate information do have to go through the Register of Wills downtown.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
But they are considered completely separate from the records department and the archives department.
Okay. All right. So it's important for researchers to know that. And the Register of Wills has a research staff, and they will do the lookup for both estates that were processed with wills, and then they have a separate set of indexes for administrations, which was folks that died without a will, intestate, and it went through the orphans court. So at some point, someone made two different sets of these index books. And I want to say they go up to the 1970s. I'll have to look. They do detail on their website what date they have, but I can't remember off the top of my head. What advice do you have for people if it's their first time coming to the Philadelphia Archive in person to do research?
Well, first of all, here's the basics. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. At the other location over by 30th Street Station, we were 3 days a week. So since reopening here Labor Day of 2018, we are back to Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. We're located at 548 Spring Garden Street at the corner of 6th and Spring Garden. Our general phone number is 215-685-9401. We do have off-street parking available between 5th and 6th Street at the Target lot because we share the whole building with Yards Brewery and Target, but the parking lot is on the south side of the building, again, between 5th and 6th Street. Basics for the first-time researchers, especially the genealogist. Again, we have birth records from 1860 to 1915, death records 1803 to 1915, marriage records 1860 to 1915. The best thing that people can come in with is just come in with all the information they know. The more information you know, the better. But even if you just have a year when you're looking for a birth or a death or marriage, we can get you started. But any and more additional information is better. Especially helpful for birth records is to have the name of the parents, if known, so we can corroborate that information with our records here. It's usually a multi-step process. Usually we go start patrons with an index, and then from the index, they'll take information from that index to go to a register, and then from the register, we'll have a look at the original record. So for example, a lot of our cemetery records, a lot of our death records are filed by cemetery. So you have to go to the index to find a page number and a register, and then from the register we get the name of the cemetery. So if you were to come in looking for a death record, and you know the cemetery they were laid to rest in, and you know when they were buried, then that is sometimes a really good shortcut for us to look for the original record in terms of a death. So yeah, just all the information that person could have. If you have a lot of information, we do have registration sheets that people will fill out, and we will keep at the end of the day so we can just keep track of what's all being pulled. But if you have a lot of information, like say you're looking for like 5 births, 5 marriages, 5 deaths, sometimes it does help, and you can get a form online, or we can email it to you to pre-fill that form out, and especially if you have a lot of information to group information, like do all your births together, or maybe on one sheet, do all your births together, do all your marriages together, and do all your whatever other material you're looking for as well, just to sort of group them together, because sometimes, especially if it's a fair amount of information we're looking for, and the patron load at the time, will sort of divide and conquer, if you will, between my colleagues and I to best assist the researcher.
That's great advice. And that form is on the website? Okay.
Yes, it's available on our website under Department Forms on the left-hand side, and that form is the registration form. Officially, it says schedule a visit to the archives. But certainly, appointments are not necessary. You can just come in off the street. Sometimes we might appreciate a little heads up, but generally we will not really pre-pull information until they come on site, because sometimes they have evolving ideas on what they want to look at. So no appointment is necessary at all.
Okay, that's great to know. And there's no fee to walk in the door. The only fee is for copies, and then the celebratory beverage that you might have at the Yards Brewing next door, depending on how your day went. So
very, very true. Yeah. There's absolutely no charge to come on in. Yeah, as you mentioned, just a little charge for copies, $1 a page for regular copies, $2 minimum. We charge a little bit more for deeds, and as we mentioned, there's an extra charge for certifications, but there's no admission charge or anything like that. Okay. And we also do offer, if you can't make it in on site, both for people regionally as well as throughout the world take advantage of this, we do offer off-site research. The general genealogical requests are about $10 a person. So, for example, if you were looking for one particular birth record, it would be $10. Again, certified copies are an extra price. We do offer also general research available for people off-site at $35 an hour for the first hour of research. People can make payment, either a check or a money order. And we always tell people, please allow up to 6 to 8 weeks for the request to be completed. As you can imagine, with patrons coming in and off-site research requests coming in, sometimes it might take a little time to get back to people. So we always tell people, please allow up to 6 to 8 weeks for your request to be completed.
All right. That's good to know, because Philadelphia was a huge immigrant destination early on in the country's history.
Certainly, and we've had it from people whose ancestors have moved out west, or we've had people sort of in the reverse, if you will. We've had inquiries from England, Ireland, and Russia looking for their relatives that either moved over here permanently, or they might have come over here for a while, then moved back. So yeah, we get research requests throughout the world, really, and not just genealogical records. We just had a inquiry from a gentleman from Australia looking for information on the Centennial records. We have a lot of information here from the Centennial Exposition from 1876 that was held in the city.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
have everything. Yeah, we have everything from the official records from the commission, including proposed drawings of buildings that were built. For example, Memorial Hall, which is used as the Please Touch Museum today. We have some proposed renderings of those buildings that were submitted as part of a design competition. We even have a log record of the coal they burned at the
Wow.
buildings to heat the buildings and provide the steam to operate some of the machinery that was on exhibit. We have quite a lot. There's a lot of other institutions in the area that have Centennial Exposition material, but we have quite a lot of information here.
I did not know that. That's the post-Civil War period up to like the 1920s or so is like one of those time periods I really am fascinated by, because there were so many changes.
Certainly.
And the city population more than doubled, in that time. And it's just the influx of the various immigrant groups, and, each kind of took a different section of the city to live in. It was very interesting. And
another part of our collection that gets a lot of attention as well, and there's just so many other parts, but another part of our collection, we have about 2 million photographs in our collection. And most of those are negative, so they're not easily viewed on site. But we have a sister website, phillyhistory.org, which people can go to. They can look it up by keyword as well as address to see what has been scanned and put up there. I'm not quite sure in terms of the progress to scan photos and put them up there, but there's just a ton of photographs up there. A lot of them are departmental photographs. You wouldn't think wouldn't be as interesting, like installing water pipes, but of course they show the neighborhood of where that project was. But a lot of people do enjoy that site, and again, you can search it by keyword or by address. And we have a third party that manages, like if you wanted a copy of a photo for yourself, or you wanted to put a copy of a photo in a book, we have a third party that manages the rights and reproductions requests for that photographic collection.
I had no idea you had photographs. Now I have yet another record set to explore by address where my ancestors lived to see. I would love to see what their neighborhood looked like at the time that they lived there or close to it. That would
Oh,
be
certainly.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also have a lot of other photographs as well that have not made it to that site. Like I know I was just reviewing a collection from the school district of the city when they were building schools. I know it was in the 19 teens, 20s, and 30s, and there might be other time periods there. But we have about a dozen boxes of all these schools under construction that even show like the demolition and various stages of construction, some of which we were just able to utilize in our about to open exhibit on the history of Northern Liberties.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So, what has been a memorable discovery that folks have made? What I'm sure on your day to day, it must be pretty neat. I don't know, to see what people are finding.
It certainly is, and some of the most neatest discoveries is sometimes even the information that you weren't quite looking for, but certainly nothing pleases us more about the delight a researcher will get in finding a record of a distant relative. There's certainly, I'm not kidding, there has certainly been yelps of joy as some people have found original records of what they were looking for, just to be able to handle those original records from their ancestor has been very, very, very pleasing to our patrons, and that's what we're here for. That's certainly no sign of a better job that we can do to help a patient define that. Of course, you run into stumbling blocks from time to time, but just for a person to be able to find their original record they were looking for is just the most satisfactory result we can hope for.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've watched the Yelps for Joy. I think I've given a few. It definitely, the interesting part about urban records versus more rural records too is your records, especially the deeds and capture how fluid sometimes a neighborhood is. You know, people might have lived in one place for 5 or 10 years and then moved, you know, a block or two over, or, you know, it's very interesting to me, and to track sort of their relatives and their other neighbors, and, you know, I don't know, it's urban records are just different than rural records. It's fascinating. What changes do you guys have coming to the archive? You made a big change in this move to the brand new building, but anything else upcoming that people should know about?
Well, now that we've settled into our new location here, certainly we're working on some clearing up the dust, if you will, after the wake of our move. But now that we're setting nicely into our collection, we've started an exhibit program earlier this year, and a lot of my professional experience has been with exhibits and general history collections. So we're looking forward to debuting our next exhibit on the history of Northern liberties shortly. But as part of that exhibit initiative, we've also started working on a lot of collaborative projects. So we're working on some new projects for the next year. Can't really share some details quite yet, but we're working on to expand that program. And then also we're going to be working on a digitization initiative that should be it's coming along very soon, but again, can't quite share details on that quite yet.
Oh boy, I feel like you're teasing us between the exhibits. Where can people stay updated to find out more about that? Like, let's say it's this time next year.
The best place is the best thing really is to call us or send us an email, or you can keep an eye on our website. We do not have a social media presence yet. We're working on investigating that, but we do suggest people keep an eye on the website, as well as give us a call or stop in or send us an email.
I don't think people realize, and they don't have the context. Like when you go to the City of Philadelphia archive, it is a wonderful experience. There's ample parking. It's nicely lit. There's big wide desks to, you know, spread your stuff out on, as you know, the different ledger books and papers and everything. You guys are fantastic in terms of your depth of knowledge and suggestions and patience with me as a researcher and everything. The ability to take digital photographs of what you've seen is wonderful. It's a great experience, and I hope people, you know, beat down your door to come in and do the research.
Yeah, I think especially as we settle into our new location and more people are learning our new address, certainly the information about the archives is spreading, as well as what we have beyond the general genealogical records, which are the most popular. It's kind of funny. We have a section in the stacks we sort of call our treasure section, material that is like, for example, we have the trial records for Al Capone when he was arrested and tried for a concealed weapon charge, and that's how he ended up spending time at Eastern State Penitentiary. We have records for Lazaretto, which is sort of this Philadelphia's version of Ellis Island, which also included enslaved persons that were brought into Philadelphia from overseas. But this treasure section keeps on growing and growing. At some point, we're going to have to say, we have a lot of treasures, but we just can't move everything to the treasure section because we just have so much material. And of course, we have the original 1701 charter signed by William Penn. We have a reproduction of that on exhibit, as like we want to keep the original out of the light and humidity as much as we can, of course. And then we also have some more popular records associated with topics everybody knows. Like, for example, we have a death record of someone who was lost on the Titanic. He was buried at the Laurel Hill Cemetery. The death record, death certificate specifically mentions the accidental drowning in the ship's names. There were at least 4 other people from the area that died on that disaster, but since their bodies were lost at sea, we don't have the official death record because there was never a burial, because there just never was a body. So we literally have tons of material because, as you can imagine, with about 22,000 cubic feet of records at about 20 pounds a box, that's about 200 tons of material. So we're only scratching the surface here.
Right. 22 tons of material. So get busy, go into your archives, start digging through, it's crazy. Is there anything else that you want to let people know about in terms of using the Philadelphia Archive?
Not really. I'm just coming in as best prepared as you can. And again, we're so very happy to help. If you want to talk to us before you come in, again, our number is 215-685-9401. But again, just come in the best prepared you are. And again, we're very happy to help people, helping to find what they're looking for. And even if it's not something we wouldn't have, we always have suggestions on where you might be able to go to. Like, for example, death and birth records after 1915, you have to talk to the State Department of Health, and they have an office in the city here. Or, for example, naturalization records, you'd have to go to the National Archives, and they have a location in Northeast Philadelphia. But not really, just come in as best prepared as you can, and we're happy to help.
All right, that's great advice. Yeah, be prepared and come in, and with a smile on your face, and and be ready for a little adventure. I think going through the records. That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Joshua, for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, and giving people some guidance and insight on how to use the city archives.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
I want to thank Joshua once again for his time in interviewing and telling us all about what the city of Philadelphia has in their archives. If you'd like to find out more about archives and repositories around the state of Pennsylvania, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. You can get it anywhere that podcasts are offered, on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you could leave a review, I'd love it. You can also contact me through my website if you have ideas for future episodes of the podcast or future places that might want to be featured. Thank you.